Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Ultimate Affiliate Marketing. I am your host. It's Paul Motley here. And today we have a special guest, which the timing of it is fantastic, especially for you guys that are looking to build an email list and actually make more money from your email list as well. We've got Emily McGuire on the show. Now, before I speak to Emily, I just want to let you know, right, and I am reading this from notes, so apologies. Emily is a mum, an email marketing expert, and founder of Email Marketing Studio, Flourish and Grit. What a fantastic name. I love that name. And for the past decade, she's helped businesses uncover hidden revenue in their email list by pairing a business's unique customer journey with and also high converting copywriting. With lessons learned over a decade and setting up thousands of email campaigns, her work has directly led to more than 80 million in revenue for her clients. So I'm guessing we need to listen carefully to Emily. Emily, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Yes, adjusting to the December weather. Although,
oh no, yeah,
are,
of course, it's you know, it's cooling off and all that good stuff. But I mean, it's fantastic to get you on the show, and I just wanted to say again, the timing of it couldn't be better because
amazing.
We've been talking so much on the show about growing an email list, and you know, it's kind of like, what do people do after that? You know, people struggle with copywriting. They don't really know how to do all this fun stuff. So give me kind of like an overview of what you do to help people.
Yeah, so the first thing I typically do with people is I help them map out their subscriber journey. So when people talk about email marketing, you know, in the professional marketing space, you know, they typically talk about personalization. And so, you know, how do you send that personalized messaging to people based on their interests? And what people typically focus on are like, you know, the actual things they're interested in, right? Like whether those are particular products or services. And what I don't see people really focusing on, which I think is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, is where that subscriber is on their customer journey. So what that means is, for example, when somebody signs up for your email list, right? As soon as they sign up, they just took an action with your brand. They're super interested in what you have to say, and they're going to be probably the most engaged they will be for a while.
Yeah.
So what do you do with them? You know, what do a lot of people do? Well, they just dump them in their email list and just start sending them their regularly scheduled email content, right? Which is a really big missed opportunity.
Right.
So that welcome series or that nurturing campaign, however you view it, is going to be a great opportunity to start introducing people to your brand, to get them in front of your products and services, whatever goals you have for them. Pack it into that welcome series. So that's one example, right? And then the next, so these sort of stages of customer journey is then, you know, after somebody makes a purchase, right? After they complete whatever goal you have for them, how are you acknowledging that? Are you? You know? And so it's these sort of triggered campaigns that capitalize on the digital behavior you have tied to people, which is exactly the power of email. Because you have that information in most email service providers.
Right.
And then, you know, and then in the middle, in between all those things, you're sending out your regular promotional content. So I help people like organize all that, look at it, and see, you know, where can we make improvements that again will get the biggest bang for your buck. And then I help, you know, develop those campaigns, strategize them, and write, design, and send them.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, because the writing of it, I think, is, and I don't know, is there that much to be said about the actual look and feel of, or the format of an email as it goes out? Because, I mean, I've used so many different types, and I hear so many different things about whether or not you should have graphics in there, how many links you should or shouldn't have in the email. How's it going to get delivered? Is it going to get delivered? Are people just going to get turned off from it? you know, what kind of subject lines, all this stuff, right? It is a complete minefield unless you know what you're talking about. So is this sort of like some do's and don'ts as far as you can go as like formatting the email itself?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of testing around the layout or the design of an email. And yes, you're right. There's a lot of debate on like only do text emails or only include a certain number of images. And what I would say is from testing, unfortunately, this is like the rallying cry of every marketing professional is it depends. So yeah, so it's really just finding out what works for your brand and your audience, right?
Right.
Because every audience is different. Your service offerings or products are going to be different than any other business. And then your resources. Do
Right.
you have the resources on hand to create a beautiful email? If you don't, then yes, a simple text email is probably going to be your best bet, you know? And then working from there, right? What can you add? What can you take away? So the things I would say in terms of, you know, layout of an email, the important things are, is it accessible? So does that mean that people can read the email no matter what device they're on? So I say that because I see brands do design their entire email as images, and
Really?
the text is embedded on the image.
Okay.
And you have to be really careful about that because when it's on mobile, that text shrinks. It doesn't resize like it would if it was just a text only email.
Oh, okay.
So being really conscientious of that. And for people who depend on text to speech readers, that those text to speech readers, so people who are visually impaired, they can't pick up the text that's in an image. So yeah, you just have to be very conscientious of that. So if they won't be able to know what's in your email.
Yeah, that's an important point there, right there and then, because you know you kind of think about whole of market there and think, yeah, there are people which are visually impaired which consume your content, and if it's a picture, that's not going to help them. So,
Right, exactly. Yeah, but fortunately, most email service providers give you the option to put in what they call alt text.
yeah.
So you can write out what was in the image. So that is helpful, right? So those are just like pitfalls to be aware of. The other thing in terms of layout to be really conscientious about is your call to action. Is it visible? Is it easy for somebody who's skimming an email, because people skim, to find and know that what the benefit is of them clicking through, right? So those are the sort of top high level things I usually start with people.
Oh, cool. I mean, one thing that I've noticed is that some marketers actually will add almost like a short summary of the email as like a PS after the signature, mainly because I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. Lots of people have done it. They get an email and they see a whole bunch of text and they just skim right to the bottom, see how far this text goes. And then they see it right at the bottom there. And it's just, you know, this is what you missed out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now and you can tell me how badly I've been doing.
Okay.
Right. So is this something more recent that I've been doing? Is actually, I have like, the typical name type of logo, right? It's just my name in different text and font. It's just black and white, really simple. I've been sticking that as an image on the top of the email. And then the text of it is black. I use a font size of about 20. And then at the bottom after my signature, I have like a really small, tiny box with an image of me. Now you can tell me if I'm going wrong or if I'm getting towards how I should be doing. I don't know. And also as well, when it comes to the links, I tend to use text hyperlinks rather than a button. Mainly because I use ActiveCampaign and I've yet to see a decent button that I've been happy with. Maybe it's just some crap at designing. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't think so. So I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with hyperlinking your text, just as long as you make it stand out visually, right? Like making it a bright color or bolding it, or, making the font size bigger, just as long as people are able to distinguish between the rest of your email and that call to action.
Yeah.
So I would say that, a logo at the top of the email is always a great idea, because it establishes brand recognition in the inbox, right? You have to build brand awareness in the inbox just as much as you have to do everywhere else. So when somebody opens the email, they know, like, oh, okay, I know who this is from, right? So absolutely, I recommend that. Text email is great. The only thing I would say, like you said, people sort of skim the email to see how sort of heavy of a lift it's going to be for them to read it. Something I see people do when they do text only emails is all the font is the same weight, size, and color. And that just looks like a big blob of text, right?
Yeah.
So I recommend, adding some visual variety to the text, like sort of how you'll see on a website where you'll see, big headlines that break up a lot of text. So, and varying font, weight, and size, like I mentioned, that will really help you break it up, and it's much easier to skim, and it looks much more digestible for somebody, so they're more likely to read.
Oh, that's cool.
And
That's
then,
cool.
yeah, and especially a personal brand, if you are a solopreneur and you are your brand, having a signature at the bottom with your headshot is a great idea. It adds humanity. It makes it look like it's coming from a real human person. And because I think most people think that, marketing materials are developed by a robot, maybe, I don't know, but they don't look very personal. So having that signature at the bottom makes it look like, oh yeah, a real human did this.
That's interesting. You mentioned that about robot stuff, because there is a few bits and pieces out there, software, apps, whatever you want to call it, that are kind of like a fill in the blank and then kind of like made by an AI. And are those things really any good, or does nothing beat the human touch?
Yeah, I mean, so AI and copywriting is an up and coming thing. People are really freaked out about it. But I would say it's not a deal breaker. It's just you have to be very conscientious of how you're using it. So in my opinion, it can help enhance your copywriting skills, but it's not going to replace them.
Yeah.
So so those fill in the blank things, I think they're a great starting point, especially if you're stuck. But eventually, so it'll help you get really comfortable with that type of writing. But eventually, you're going to find your own formula that works for you and your audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think they're a deal breaker. I just think they're a good starting point to help you sort of get your momentum and going.
Yeah, I understand that, because I've used a few myself, and I'm not going to mention names or anything like that, but I have used a few myself, and I found that because I've been doing, sending emails out for the last few years, it is completely different to how I would say or things. It uses a completely different set of language, almost the text, the structure of the sentences and stuff like that. And it almost felt like, okay, right, well, if I'm trying to replace me, this is robotic me. And I'm not sure if people are going to completely identify with that, because they've been so used to me being maybe, I wouldn't call it slapstick, but it was more of my stuff. It's just how I would speak to someone. If I was talking to them in a room next to me, this is how I would be writing.
Right.
Because that's the only way that I can think of doing it. And sometimes the words just flow. Other times it's a bore and I hate it. And
Yeah,
it's like,
I know. Yeah. Yeah. But it's the same with like any kind of template. If you're going to go and look at a template, even like, if you have a Squarespace site or something, you're going to want to customize it, right? You want to make it totally your own. And it's a great place to start, but you have to do what's right and personal to your brand and your audience. And most of the time templates aren't going to cut it. but they're a great starting point to get you going and maybe thinking about new ideas, get some inspiration. Yeah, that's how I sort of see them.
Here's another piece of string question for you. How often should you email your list?
Oh yeah, that's a very common one.
You get that one all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, with anything in digital marketing, consistency is the most important thing. So, sort of baseline, what I recommend is at least once a week. It gets your, and, sort of into the digital marketing world, people's attention spans are really short. So once a week keeps you top of mind. It keeps your audience engaged and expecting you in the inbox. But if you don't have the resources to do once a week, right? Not everybody has the time or the talent to do that on their teams. Once a month, as long as you're consistent about it, right? Once a month is okay too. But yeah, I think once a week is a great baseline. And of course, like if you have something more time sensitive going on, like you're launching a new product or service, or you have a workshop that you want to get people to register for, you might increase that cadence for a special campaign, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, once a week is where I recommend people start.
Do you sort of like recommend, if you're doing it on that basis, whether it be once a month or once a week? I've heard several people talking about being consistent with the day and time as well, like when they're doing YouTube videos. Would you say it's better to do that with email as well? Would you say, okay, well, if you're sending out on the 2nd of the month, make sure you send it out on every 2nd of the month so people get used to that? Or is it just really not matter that much about day and time?
I don't think it does. I've done a lot of testing around day and time, and it fluctuates so much that I think it's okay to find a day and time that works again for your audience and your business, because I've seen different results even on the same list, just with different segments, right?
Yeah.
So your audience can vary so widely, and your campaign might have a deadline that doesn't fit into that sort of cadence, right? Like if you pick the same date and time every week or month.
I understand.
So I think it's just playing around with your sends, watching how they do, and if you can split test them, then try that out too and see. Just half your audience, if half your audience gets it on Sunday at 6 p.m. and the other half gets it at Wednesday at 9 a.m., what's the difference, right? Like, can you tell any difference?
Yeah, can you see that? That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of questions just popped straight into my mind. I've half forgotten one, but I remember the other. So if you were, let's say you've got all this stuff worked out and you're emailing your list on a regular basis, and that's all well and good, but you do have something coming up. How many days would you look to go before it? And would you include any links in the first set of emails, or would you wait until later on in the campaign?
Yeah, so if you've got, like, let's say, for example, you're launching a new product or service. Yes, I would put links in every email. Okay. So people, if you announce it, so I sort of see it as like at minimum a 3 tiered campaign, right? So 3 emails. You announce it, you say people it's coming, deadline's coming, and then you say, okay, last chance. Right. And obviously you can have multiple emails in each of those phases. But I already forgot your original question. What was your original question?
That's my fault, because I forgot my second question, didn't I?
Okay, I'll blame you.
Yeah, that's all right. It's my fault. I can take it. It's usually my fault anyway, no matter what happens. So I can deal with that. No, the question was literally just like, if you've got your regular email flow going on and stuff like that, and you have something coming up, how long before would you start that? And you said like minimum 3 days, which is cool. And I was asking whether or not you'd include the links from the get-go. So, you've answered the question, even though you forgot it. It was great.
Great. But yeah, like
success matters, doesn't it? So
yeah, but yeah, like again, people have short attention spans, so you don't want to do it too soon or too much in advance, and you don't want to do it too soon. So like I would start at least like 2 weeks before whatever
really?
deadline.
Wow.
Yeah. And then at least, and then you have the, okay, hey, this is happening. Hey, it's still happening. Here are all the features, benefits, blah, 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 testimonials, and hey, deadline's coming. Deadline's about to end. Deadline's here, kind of thing,
Oh, look out. Deadline's coming up. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because people are motivated by essentially FOMO, right? So and deadlines. So like, don't miss out. Kind of
they go through a lot of stages when they're coming to buy a product or service anyway. And first of all, and that I just remember my second question. Fantastic. Yeah, I get about 250 to 300 emails every day. It's literally impossible for me to keep up with that. But when I log in, after I've got through my usual morning routine of getting up and doing all the stuff to make sure I'm not still wearing my pajamas and all that good stuff, right? And I skim through the emails, and there's always some which jump out. So what advice would you give to people to pop when it comes to opening their emails?
Yeah. So, one thing is, using an emoji well. I won't say just use an emoji, right? Because I've seen people, just throw them in there just to add some decoration. But if you can put emojis in the email so that the email makes sense with the emoji, like that's going to help it stand out.
Yeah.
Also, using the word you in a subject line is shown to increase open rates. And again, like that also helps shift your mindset as a copywriter, an email copywriter, to think about like what are the benefits or outcomes of this email, right? Like often I see people do subject lines like, this is our thing, in essence, right? Like, or so right now, we're in the beginning of December and holiday emails are going out. So I'll see emails like our biggest sale or our holiday gift guide. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with me? So if you sort of switch that mindset to think about, okay, what's in it for the subscriber if they open the email, it's going to have a huge impact on how and what you're writing in terms of the subject line.
Awesome. I'm getting blown away by the amount of value you're dropping right now, and I hope everyone that's listening is taking notes. If you haven't taken notes, go back and re-listen, because there are some amazing points in here. I've learned so much already. Emily, this has been fantastic. I'm loving it. Now, I know that as with everything, you can try and do it yourself, or you can get help, right? And I tell you what, my business literally went from, it was going from like 1 to 3 to 5 to 7. As soon as I started getting help, it went from like 7 to 25 to 300, right? And that's the key point. You've got to get help if you want your business to grow. And I always think, and I tell a lot of people to try and, get to a point where you can actually afford, without having to borrow money, to get yourself help, whether it be mentorship, whether it be, just asking and getting the right help from the right person. And from everything that I've heard and seen so far, I've been super impressed. And I want my audience, I want everyone that's listening to come to you for help when it comes to emails. So how could they get started right off with you?
Yeah, so not to brag, but I hang out on the internet a lot, so you can find me there.
Surprising.
Yes. I know. Just not any internet, the World Wide Web.
What? No.
Yeah, I know. Shocking. So I hang out on LinkedIn a lot. So feel free to come find me there. I'm always sharing tips and tricks about emails on LinkedIn. So feel free to follow or connect with me. Excellent. I also have I also share those things on my email list, and I have a ton of resources that I share. So one of them is, an open rate action guide. So how to boost your email open rates.
Oh, we could all
so
do
you can
with
go
that.
find.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I summarize sort of, what we talked about in this podcast. And you can find that at flourishgrit.com/open.
Nice. Emily, again, thank you so much. And I just want to, again, I've got to go over this several times so that people actually listen, take it in and take action, right? I'm going to make sure that I get all those links from you. And by the time this goes live, it's either going to be in the description on the YouTube video. So hello to everybody watching on YouTube. Or it's a big hello to everybody listening on the podcast, right? So do you like how I did that? It was cool. The thing is, those people that are listening on the podcast, they can't see that, but when I leant in to do that, it kind of all blurred my face out. So YouTube, yeah, awesome. Right. So, but I love your podcast. Yes, rock it. Okay, Emily, I really appreciate you coming on. We're going to speak just after this to make sure I get all those links and goodies. I'm going to make sure that I subscribe and find you on LinkedIn. I'm going to go stalk your profile. You're not going to have, you're going to get fed up with me completely. And
perfect.
That's going to be how it is.
Can't wait.
Awesome. Emily, once again, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to be here.